Hi, this is Jim Feist in Las Vegas. Check out my plays every day at Vegas Sports Masters, but you can get it for $19 with a bonus college basketball high roller. Just call 888-777-4155 and use the code words Jim Wins. Now stay tuned as Dave Cokin and I break down the sports weekend in football and basketball on ProLine.
All right, so we've got the matchup, and it's a good one. The Atlanta Falcons and New England Patriots will battle it out next week in Houston. Lots of things to talk about as far as this game goes. We'll get into some numbers, and right off the bat, Jim, what are we seeing as the current number right now? I'm still expecting this to go up as it gets later, but it looks like there's been a little Atlanta money showing up.
Actually, Dave, I don't think the number's going to get off 3. I think it's a dangerous number to get off, and I think there's enough action both ways where you will see, like, I can look at one book here, 3 minus 0.2, which means there's a little bit more on the dog. And then I see 3 minus 15, which in that book, there's a little bit more on the favorite. So I'm looking at a pretty good balance. Now, granted, more people bet the Super Bowl than any other game. And that means there's a lot of volume in tickets. And then the bigger bettors, the people who are going to come in the door with 100,000, 400,000, 500,000. I'm not 100% sure what they're going to do because there's a lot of square money that's also big money. That's unusual this year. It's the more and more of that. Now, this also the money that's very large that we would call sharp money is also big, and it's hard. That's where we have to determine what's sharp and what's not, and that goes back to what Dave talked about before with the Joes versus the pros. It's where that kind of information is really good, and that's why you want to get on that pros versus Joes system that we have, and Dave is putting out every day. So right now, I'm looking at 3 and 58. Now, interesting here. One major book, and it's the same book that has 3 minus 0.2, which means the lean to Atlanta, has 58 under.
And I know who that is.
That's the old. Pardon me?
I said I'm pretty sure I know. I don't have my screen in front of me because we're doing this, but
yeah, you know who it is.
I know who that is.
You know who it is.
Yeah.
The 67% of the bets are on New England, which is not, that's understandable. You got Belichick, Brady, which is like a household, that's an entry. It's like a horse racing entry, those two. And you got, 67% of the bets, but the 33% that are coming in on Atlanta are actually bigger bets. So that's why the number has stayed pretty even. So the collective of 67 bets out of 100 are equaling 33 bets out of 100 because of the size of the bets. Now, the game did open 357.5. It shot up to 59, 58.5. There's still a lot of 58.5s out there. There's one very square shot, and you know who this is too. That's 3 minus 25, 59.5. So, and we know that's the shop that mostly squares bet, usually $200, $300 and less, but they mostly bet there, and they usually bet the favorite and over. And that's what you see there. Minus 25 is a big number. That's basically you're saying 3.5 when we were saying 25. And then 59.5 is also the highest number out there right at the moment. So when you look at, and that is a real square shop versus a pro shop over on this other side that I mentioned to you before. So it's still too early. We're still over a week away, and I would say this number is not going to go anywhere. It's just, when you look at the two teams, and we're going to analyze the two teams, it's hard to get by the Belichick-Brady factor.
Oh,
even if you think Atlanta is better, and it's if you think that. This team, these two guys have been here this is their 7th trip here together, which is unusual. Nobody ever does that. And what other team, Dave, has been to the Super Bowl multiple times, and how many times was that?
Oh, I don't know. I'm terrible at trivia. I don't know. Pittsburgh, maybe? Pittsburgh.
Maybe Pittsburgh or Dallas back in the day.
Dallas back in the day. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know Buffalo went to 4 in a row, which is still, to me,
That's
maybe the most
that's
amazing
kind of
thing.
remarkable.
It's absolutely incredible. That's the most underrated football franchise of all time, was that period where the Bills, I know they lost the ball, but I mean, just getting to the Super Bowl 4 straight times is absolutely incredible. And the fact they didn't win any of them really doesn't mean anything. Here's an interesting thought that has nothing to do with the numbers, but I think it's I think it plays here. Tom Brady's 39 years old. Bill Belichick's been coaching the Patriots for a lot of years now. And I'm going to say, from an intangible standpoint, there's never been a single game either one of them wanted more than they want this one. And it's got nothing to do with the Atlanta Falcons and everything to do with Roger Goodell.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think
you want motivation.
Right.
Holy cow. I don't know how you quantify that as far as numbers go, but I think it's actually going to be worth a couple of points to the Patriots. And it's part of the reason that I feel this game will go the way I think it does. I mean, the focus here is going to be unbelievable. And let's face it, and again, this is difficult to quantify in terms of a number, but that vast, enormous amount of experience in dealing with a game of this type is a plus for New England. They've been through this. I mean, the whole team has been through this many times, whereas it's going to be a new experience for a lot of the Falcons. Now, some teams handle that very well, and Atlanta does have a coach in Dan Quinn who has plenty of Super Bowl experience himself, going back to his Seahawks days. So, I think that's something where their panic factor or getting overwhelmed by the hype will not be as great as it might have been had, say, the Houston Texans or somebody got into the Super Bowl. And for a team like that, it might have been just overwhelming. Those are things that I'm factoring into this. By the way, quick note, and we have mentioned, and I think everybody's aware of this, and, there's just no getting around it. Public money has done better down the stretch this year and in the playoffs than in any season that I can ever remember. In the playoffs alone, I believe, in games where there's been a public side as opposed to a sharp side, the Joes have gotten the money 7 out of 10 times. And that goes back to the end of the regular season. It's been a very good year for the public bettors.
You got a disparity in the NFL. You got some very poor teams. And I mean, really, really poor teams. It's not just Cleveland and San Francisco. There's a lot of really bad teams out there. And in the 10 games in the playoffs so far, 8 of them have been won by the home favorite, which is absolutely remarkable. And the thing is, the difference in score has averaged over 13 points a game, some of them much higher than that. So these are not good viewing games. The ratings are terrible. Nobody's getting the excitement. We had 2 really good games as far as the mystery in the fourth quarter, who was going to win and who was going to cover. And that was when Green Bay beat Dallas and Pittsburgh beat KC. And the Pittsburgh-KC game was not very exciting because the winner of the game had 6 field goals. So, by an aside to that, Pittsburgh did not play very well in that game or the championship game, and now Ben Roethlisberger is talking a little bit about retiring. However, dig this number.
He's not retiring.
He still owed $36 million on his 2 years of the contract. And if he quits, he has to pay back 18. So that's a $54 million price tag.
He's not retiring.
I guarantee you he's not going to quit.
Yeah, I think it's just post-playoff blues. It feels bad about losing the last game and not getting the Super Bowl. He's not going anywhere. He'll be back next year. I'd put that line at about, I'd honestly put it about 20-1. Okay.
Oh, it's way higher than that, Dave. For $54 million, you and I would show up easily. In a chair, we'd show up.
True enough. All right, a couple of quick numbers. These are just basic numbers. As you would expect, both teams are pretty strong in some categories. Atlanta, offense number 2 in yards, number 3 in passing, number 5 in rushing, number 1 in points. The defense not as good, 26th in yards, 27th in points, 28th versus the pass, but they have gotten better. And that's why they're still playing. The Patriots, 4th in yards, 3rd in points, 4th in passing, 7th rushing. The defense is the most efficient in the league, period. And they're number 8 in yards, but number 1 in points. And that tells you about how efficient the Patriots defense is, and you saw what they did against the Steelers. That was a brilliant defensive performance last week. I know Le'Veon Bell got hurt, but they took away so many things from the Steelers in that game and really reduced them to a mediocre-looking offense. And we know Pittsburgh's offense is better than that, so this Patriots team is tough.
There's a bit of a controversy in Pittsburgh, and it might take a little bit away from what Belichick and company did in the last game. There's a conflict with the offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh, and we may see him jettison there because I know that's part of the problem that Big Ben is having there. He hasn't gotten along with him that well. But when you talk about Pittsburgh and Tomlin, head coach, not one of my favorites. I don't think he prepares his team well. I don't think he makes in-game adjustments well. And this is going to come into play in this game. Quinn is a defensive coach, first of all. But he's got an offensive coordinator in Kyle Shanahan who looks like he's going to San Francisco to be the head coach. And he has done a remarkable job with Matty Ice, Matty Ryan, and that whole team, and number 1 in the league in scoring. When the season started, there were a lot of very young players that Quinn had brought in for the defense, and they were playing a lot of zone. Now, zones are a little bit easier to break down. You give up a lot of yardage, there's a lot of movement, then it gets down into the red zone where they can stop teams or not. So their numbers on defense are terrible. However, they've played a little bit more, or I would say a lot more, man-to-man. You cannot play a zone against the Patriots. Brady, Belichick, and their offensive scheme just cut you apart. Now, this goes back to the Pittsburgh game. And I know New England looked fantastic in that game. However, they never made an adjustment. Pittsburgh, I'm talking about. And Brady just cut them up like he was cutting carrots. And you cannot do that. If you play that way against Brady, he will chop you up. You must put pressure on him up the middle and get him off his spot because he isn't that mobile and he doesn't throw nearly as well as an Aaron Rodgers does on the move. So the teams that have beaten or given the Patriots trouble over the years are these defenses that can get a lot of pressure up the middle on Brady, and that would have been the Jets. Surprisingly, that is one thing they did well from time to time, and Denver. So if you don't do that and play man defense, they will chop you apart, and this game won't even be close. It'll be high scoring, but it won't be close.
All right, and one other thing, I don't think Dan Quinn will punt if the score is 20-9 and you got a 4th down at the 39-yard line in New England. That was an absolutely horrible decision. It is indefensible decision, in my opinion. And Tomlin did not have a good game. All right, we're going to come back. We are going to look specifically at a game that's taking place in college basketball. It's a Saturday game. ACC matchup, Duke and Wake Forest. We'll get to that next. All right, ACC action, and it's Duke and Wake Forest taking place. And we focused on this game specifically because there's a lot to talk about on the Duke Blue Devils, who came into this season as the preseason favorite to win it all. Now, that doesn't mean that they were going to win it all, but it certainly would indicate that they would easily be a Sweet 16 team and a great candidate to make the Final Four. When I look at this Duke team right now, I don't see anything close to that. Not that they're a bad basketball team. They're not. I mean, there's too much talent for them to be bad. But they're 15-5, and they're clearly disappointing. And Mike Krzyzewski is part of the reason why, because he's not there with the back surgery. And, Capel's trying to do the job, but it's still not the same as having your head coach there. But the big issue on this team is the Grayson Allen situation. Jim, this is a major distraction. I think they need to sit him down. It's every single game there's some kind of an incident. The last game they played, he walks through the other team's huddle and bumps somebody. He's got some problems, and there is 0% 0%. And then there's usually like 1%, 2%, 0% doubt in my mind that he is a distraction to this team right now. And by the way, he's playing lousy basketball.
You know, Dave, it comes back to just human beings. It's really not about basketball or sports. We've seen this with people. We've both been around long enough to have seen people that are just out of control emotionally. And for whatever reason, and I'm not a psychologist, and I can't figure that out, but I will say this. The problem with Duke is the head coach. Mike Krzyzewski has not handled this well. When Grayson Allen made the blunders that he's made, not only this year but last, he has not disciplined this young man well. And when I can't even remember the exact incidents, but I can remember a few games, maybe 10 games ago, when he did something and they gave him a 1-game suspension or indefinite, and it ended up being one. He should have been thrown off the team, period. Unless you take charge of a kid like this, it spreads. Then the rest of the kids look at it and they lose respect in the coach. Now, who's coaching this team, Mike or Grayson? So it comes down to, if you don't get the kind of leadership you should have, it's going to fall apart, and I believe that's what's happened to Duke. Lack of leadership on Mike's part, and this kid should definitely be off the team. He's out of control for whatever reason. You know, and I feel sorry for him, and I feel bad if there's really something bad going on in his life. But if you're talking about the sport, and if you're talking about the team and the rest of the players and the school's image, the kid should not be playing.
No, I agree with that. And, you know, in addition, you know, you could argue that, well, you know, they don't want to hurt his draft status or whatever. He's not going to get drafted in his present condition. Nobody's going to take a chance on him. He's not, first of all, he's in a bad year. But why would any pro team reach out and say, yeah, boy, that's the type of guy we want on our team? I think he just needs to go away for a while and get his head together. And, you know, the thing is, if you keep, I'll switch to football for a second, because this is one that's familiar to everybody. We don't have to.
I know where you're going. I know exactly what you're going to say.
Look, let me tell you something. If you want to know why the Cincinnati Bengals fell apart this year, it had nothing to do with the talent level on the team. It had everything to do with the fact that they keep a bunch of a-holes on the team. And they don't stop behaving badly. And you've got Pac-Man Jones getting in more trouble again. His apologies are complete BS, okay? He's a bad guy. And you keep guys like that on your football team, and you are going to have problems. Well, to me, it gets even more magnified on a small roster situation like you have in basketball. There's some guys that can be distractions, but they can be good distractions in a way because they keep a team loose. Go back to Dennis Rodman in his days with the Bulls. He was distracting, but he was distracting in a funny way. And I think it actually kept the team loose.
Yeah.
Stuff like Pac-Man Jones or what this clown is doing at Duke does not keep the team loose. It messes up the chemistry in the team. And if teams aren't smart enough to see that and take the appropriate steps, well, they're the ones who pay the penalty.
Back in football, again, we'll go to another team in Ohio. Johnny Manziel in college was a mess. Great college player. Nobody's going to take that away from him. But he had a lot of off-field problems. Everyone could see that. There were so many people that, A, didn't think he was big enough, fast enough, or even accurate enough to play in the NFL. Oh, and the off-field stuff. But then, of course, comes along the Cleveland Browns, and they drafted him. If the Cleveland Browns could draft Grayson Allen, they would, because that's their style. But you have to be that kind of mentality to go after something like that. And speaking of which, they have not to pick on the Cleveland Browns, but I like doing it. There's a kid for it is. There's a kid playing for Atlanta. His name is Gabriel. Last name I can't remember his first name. Pretty talented guy. He was just cut by Cleveland.
Yeah,
amazing, absolutely amazing. But anyway, that's a story for another day.
So anyway, let's look at this game. You know, very quietly, we haven't said much about Danny Manning. Boy, he's doing a nice job. This is a lot of really good ex-players sometimes don't transition well to head coaching because they're on a different wavelength than most players. But Danny Manning has. And, Danny Manning might not have the pro career that he could have had it not been for injuries. But he was a really talented guy and is, clearly knows the game. I think he's done an excellent job at Wake Forest. And I think the Demon Deacons, who played well at home and have a chance to get to the NCAA tournament, this would be a really big game for them. I got to give them an edge in this game. Now, I don't think we're going to get value in the line because of Duke's recent performances and the fact that everybody knows the problems with the distractions. So I don't know if it's going to be a bettable game on Saturday, but I think it's a winnable game, certainly for Wake Forest. They're off a tough loss. They took Syracuse to the wire in the Carrier Dome, didn't cover the spread. Q's got a couple of late free throws. That's still a tough place to play, so I'm not putting much into that. I think Wake Forest has a really good chance to beat Duke on Saturday.
I agree with you. Wake played a very good game at Syracuse. And even though Syracuse is a train wreck when they go on the road, they're really strong at home. And they do cover and they play well there. And Wake gave them a game. And they could have easily won that game, very easily won that game, and covered. But, yeah, this is a good spot for Wake. It really, I don't know that it's even about value. I think in this spot, I know the Duke should be the favorite because of their rating and all that stuff, but I think Wake can win this game. I'm not really too concerned about that.
I would agree. And we'll see what they do as far as the odds makers are concerned. Obviously, there's tons of games on Saturday, and we will each be trying to find the best ones to get out to our clients and put online. So we hope you'll visit the website on a daily basis to find out what's available at jimfeist.com. And by the way, if you want to get free plays every day on a recorded message, it's very easy to do. There's a toll-free number. It's 888-4... I don't even know what the roaming charge thing is now, so I don't even know why I say toll-free. But the number to call is 888-294-1970. When you call, you will get a free play on recorded message.
And there's another way you can get a free play as well. Just text GAME, GAME, to 25827, and we will send a free play right to your cell phone. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Jim Feist Sports, and feel free to send me a direct message to any question you may have about gaming or specific games or anything. I'd like to get back to you and do that. So that's Jim Feist Sports, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.